My sister-in-law is demanding I cut contact with my brother's ex-girlfriend even though she's helping me get a life-changing job opportunity. Will I be the bad guy if I tell her no? When people talk about loyalty, they always make it sound clean, like something that should come easy when it's about family. But standing in the middle of my tiny studio apartment in downtown Chicago, with my phone buzzing in one hand and my brother's wife's angry texts lighting up the other, loyalty felt like a noose. My name's Emily Sterling. Before my world started falling apart, I was just another overworked assistant at a real estate office that paid me barely enough to keep my lights on. I thought that was as complicated as my life would get. Then Ava, my brother's ex-girlfriend, walked back into it. It had been 4 years since the breakup. Back then, my brother Caleb swore he'd never forgive her. Something about betrayal, disrespect, and crossing lines. I didn't ask questions. I just stayed out of it like any younger sister who'd spent her life trying to keep the peace. But life has a sick sense of humor, and it decided to put Ava right in my path again, at the exact moment I needed her most. I met her at a networking brunch my coworker dragged me to. I was half asleep, sipping watery coffee and trying to pretend I belonged in a room full of women in designer suits, when I heard someone say, "Emily Starling," in that voice I'd never forgotten. Calm, confident, like she knew her name could stop a room. When I turned, Ava was standing there, looking every bit like the woman my brother still probably dreamed about hating. Sharp blazer, subtle perfume, hair perfectly styled in a way that screamed money and control. I froze. She didn't. "Emily, it's been years," she said, smiling like we were old friends instead of ghosts from each other's past. "Yeah," I muttered, pretending to sip my coffee. "It's been a while." She didn't seem offended. If anything, she looked amused. "You look good. Still got that quiet confidence." "I like that." I laughed awkwardly. "Thanks. You, look like you own the whole brunch." Her smile deepened. "Almost do. I'm one of the keynote speakers." That's when it hit me, Ava had made it. She'd gone from my brother's fiery girlfriend who used to dream about starting her own PR firm to actually running one of the biggest in the city. And apparently she was scouting for new talent. The universe has a dark sense of irony. By the end of the event, she'd handed me her card. "Call me," she said. "I think I can help you get somewhere better." Somewhere better. 2 words I hadn't heard in a long time. When I told my best friend Jenna about it that night, she almost dropped her wine glass. "Wait, your brother's Ava? The one who threw his stuff out the window?" "She didn't throw it out the window," I corrected. "She just relocated it to his car." "That's the same thing." "Not technically." "Emily," she said, narrowing her eyes. "This woman is your brother's ex. She's the reason he couldn't date anyone for like a year. And now she wants to help you? That's not weird to you." "It's weird," I admitted. "But it's also an opportunity. Her firm's hiring for a communications manager. That's basically my dream job." "Isn't your brother in the same business as her? Why not ask him for help?" Jenna asked. "I once did and he kept promising to work something out but ended up getting just an internship without paying, told me to work my way up and not depend on him." I replied helplessly. Jenna sighed. "Just be careful. You're playing with fire." She was right. I knew she was right. But when you've been struggling for years, watching your bills pile up, your career stall, and your dreams shrink down to just making it through another week, sometimes you learn to live with the burn. So I called Ava. A week later, I was standing in her glass-walled office on the 27th floor of a downtown skyscraper, trying not to look too impressed. The city stretched out below like a glittering promise, and for the first time in years I felt seen. Ava leaned back in her chair, studying me. "You're good," she said after glancing through my resume. "Overqualified for your current job. Underpaid, undervalued, and definitely underestimated." I tried not to smile too hard. "You got all that from a resume?" "From your eyes," she said, smirking. "You look like someone who's been waiting for permission to take up space." Something about that made my chest tighten. I wanted to tell her I didn't need permission, but maybe I did. "So," she continued, "how would you feel about joining my team? Full-time. Communications lead. The pay's triple what you make now." My mouth fell open. "Triple? Maybe a little more, depending on how soon you can start." Took me 3 seconds to say yes. That was the moment everything shifted. The calm before the storm I didn't know was already forming. 3 days later, my brother's wife Serena called. Her voice was sharp, sugar-coated with that fake politeness she used when she was trying not to explode. "I heard you've been seeing Ava again," she said. "Please tell me that's a joke." "Serena, she offered me a job." "She what?" "A job, Serena. A real one. A good one. She's running her own firm now." "I don't care if she's running the White House," Serena snapped. "She destroyed Caleb. You think it's okay to cozy up with the woman who cheated on your brother?" I froze. "She what?" "Oh, don't play dumb," Serena said. "You were too young back then to understand, but she broke him. He couldn't sleep for months. He lost clients because of her. And now you're just gonna what? Pretend it never happened." "I didn't know it was that bad," I said quietly. "Well, now you do. So cut contact. You owe your family that much." I wish I could say I hung up and made the noble choice. That I chose family. That I said no to the dream job and went back to scraping by on minimum wage. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because for the first time in my adult life, I was finally being seen for what I could be, not just who I was related to. I looked out my apartment window that night at the city lights flickering against the glass, and I whispered the truth that scared me most. If being loyal means staying small, then maybe I'm done being loyal. I didn't expect my brother to show up the next morning. I'd barely poured my first cup of coffee when I heard a knock on my apartment door. 3 sharp raps that could only belong to Caleb. He'd always been a don't text first kind of guy, even with his own sister. If he wanted something, he showed up and said it straight to your face. I opened the door, and there he was, 6 feet of frustration, wearing his work jacket and a frown that could have cracked glass. "Emily," he said, his jaw tight. "We need to talk." I stepped aside, motioning him in. "Morning to you too." He walked in, didn't even look around. My apartment was small, barely enough room for one person, but he paced it like he was inspecting the scene of a crime. "You've been talking to Ava?" he asked finally. I hesitated. "She offered me a job, Caleb." His head snapped up. "She what?" "A job. At her PR firm. It's a good opportunity. Probably the best one I'll ever get." He laughed once, humorless and sharp. "Unbelievable. Out of all the people in this city, you go to her." "I didn't go to her," I said. "I ran into her at an event. She offered. I didn't even know she was going to be there." "That woman nearly ruined my life, Emily." His voice cracked on the last word. "And now you're working for her?" I leaned against the counter, trying to steady my voice. "You never told me what happened, Caleb." "I only ever heard bits and pieces," Serena said. "Don't start," he interrupted. "You know exactly what happened." "Do I?" I shot back. "Because as far as I know, you two broke up. People break up every day. It doesn't mean I should throw away my career over it." He ran a hand through his hair and sighed. "You don't get it. She didn't just break up with me. She used me. She wanted access to my client list, my contacts, my name. And when she got it, she left. Took half my network and built her empire off it." My stomach twisted. "You never told me that." He looked at me, eyes hard. "Because I didn't think I'd ever have to. I thought loyalty ran deeper than ambition." That word, loyalty, hung in the air like smoke. "Caleb," I said softly, "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just trying to move forward. I've been stuck for years, you know that." He stepped closer, his voice low. "You really think she wants to help you out of kindness? Ava doesn't do anything unless it benefits her. Trust me on that." I wanted to believe him. I did. But Ava hadn't asked me for anything. She just offered a job. A lifeline. And maybe I was foolish enough to grab it. "Please," he said finally. "Don't take it. We'll figure something else out. I'll talk to some people, see if I can get you an interview somewhere else. Like last time." I asked before I could stop myself. His face fell. Last time he'd promised to help, it took 6 months, and all I got was a 2-week internship that didn't pay a dime. "I didn't mean that," I muttered, "but the damage was done." He stepped back, shaking his head. "You've changed. Maybe I've just grown up." He stared at me for a long time before leaving. He didn't slam the door, but the silence after he closed it hit harder than any shout. For the next few days, I threw myself into work at Ava's firm. I told myself that if I just kept my head down and did the job, everything would calm down. Maybe Caleb would see that this wasn't about betrayal, it was about survival. Ava's office became my escape. She was a tough boss, sure, but fair. The kind of woman who didn't apologize for being powerful. She had this way of walking into a room and making everyone straighten up. I'd be lying if I said I didn't admire her for it. One afternoon, I stayed late finishing a presentation when she came in carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You've been at it for hours," she said, handing me one. "You're going to burn out before your first paycheck." I smiled. "I'm just trying to prove I belong here." "You already do." That simple sentence hit deeper than I expected. It had been a long time since anyone said that to me. She sat on the edge of my desk, looking out at the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling window. "You know," she said, "your brother used to hate how hard I worked. Said I cared more about success than love." I froze. She glanced back at me. "I guess he wasn't wrong." "You really hurt him," I said quietly. Her lips twitched. "He hurt me too." "How?" She hesitated. "Then, he made promises he couldn't keep. And when I stopped waiting for him to change, I became the villain." I didn't know what to say. She looked sad for the first time since I'd seen her again, vulnerable even. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed on the desk. A message from Serena lit up the screen. "Serena, we need to talk. Now." Ava noticed my face change. "Trouble?" I sighed. "Family. My sister-in-law." She gave a knowing smile. "Ah, the gatekeeper. Every family has one." Later that evening, I met Serena at a small cafe near Lincoln Park. She didn't even wait for me to sit before she started. "So you ignored everything I said," she hissed. "You're actually working for her." "I took the job, yes." "Unbelievable." She leaned forward, eyes burning. "Do you have any idea what that woman did to your brother?" "I've heard his version," I said. "And hers." "Oh, please. Don't tell me you're buying her sob story." "I'm not buying anything. I'm just saying maybe there's more to it." Serena slammed her hand on the table, drawing a few stares. "There's not. She's a manipulative, power-hungry snake. And now she's using you to get back at Caleb. Can't you see that?" I swallowed hard. "She hasn't done anything wrong to me." "Yet," Serena snapped. "But she will. And when she does, don't expect us to clean it up." Something in her tone shifted, colder, sharper. "If you keep working for her, Emily, don't bother coming around the house anymore. Caleb doesn't need people who betray him and his own family." I stared at her, stunned. "You're really giving me an ultimatum?" "I'm giving you a choice," she said. "Family or that woman." The words sank deep. Family or freedom. Safety or success. I stood slowly, heart pounding. "Then I guess you're not going to like my choice." Her jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," I said, walking away. "But it'll be my mistake." That night I cried for the first time in months. Not because of guilt, but because I realized how easy it was for the people who claim to love you most to weaponize that love when it no longer served them. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be loved like that anymore. For the next week, my life turned into a juggling act between guilt and ambition. By day, I buried myself in Ava's world. Meetings, presentations, late nights filled with caffeine and adrenaline. By night, I tried not to scroll through my phone, half expecting another text from Caleb or Serena telling me how much of a disappointment I'd become. But they didn't call. They didn't text. They just disappeared. It's funny how silence can feel louder than screaming. One Friday evening, as I was packing up to leave the office, Ava stopped me in the hallway. "You got plans tonight?" I hesitated. "Nothing that can't be canceled." "Good. You're coming with me." "To where?" She smirked. "You'll see." 30 minutes later, I was sitting in the back seat of her black SUV as the driver navigated through downtown traffic. I didn't know where we were going, but Ava looked relaxed for once. Leaning back, hair loose, tapping her fingers on the leather seat in rhythm with the music. "You ever wonder why people hate women like me?" she asked suddenly. I blinked. "That's random." She smiled faintly. "It's not. You've seen the looks, haven't you? From people at work. From your brother's wife. I can tell they talk about me." I hesitated. "Maybe. Let me guess. Ruthless. Manipulative. Cold." "Those words might have come up," I admitted carefully. She laughed softly. Of course they did. People love strong women until we stop apologizing for being strong. I wasn't sure what to say, so I stayed quiet. She turned to me, her gaze piercing. Do you know what really happened between me and Caleb? I froze. I've heard his side. Then it's time you heard mine. The car pulled into the parking lot of a sleek rooftop restaurant. The kind of place where people in expensive suits smiled too wide and talked too loud. Ava led me inside, all confidence and calm, while I followed like I'd accidentally walked into a scene I wasn't supposed to see. We sat by the glass railing overlooking the city. The lights shimmered below, and for a moment, it almost felt peaceful, until she started talking. Your brother and I met when I was 24, Ava began. He was charming, ambitious, and most of all, he believed in me. I was just starting out, working PR for a small agency that didn't think much of my ideas. Caleb told me I could do better. That I should start my own firm. She paused, swirling her wine. He offered to invest. Said he believed in my vision. I trusted him completely. We worked together, built client lists, pitched campaigns late nights, early mornings. I thought we were partners. She looked at me. Then I found out he wasn't investing for me. He was using my ideas to impress another firm he was trying to buy into. Every campaign we built, every contact I brought in, he took credit for it. I stared at her. He never said that. Of course he didn't, she said quietly. He's proud. And when I confronted him, he flipped it on me, accused me of using him. Said I betrayed him. He made sure everyone believed it. My name was dragged through every client circle in this city. She took a slow sip. So I started over. Alone. From scratch. I leaned back, my mind spinning. It didn't sound like the story Caleb told me at all. But something about Ava's tone, low, steady, tired, felt too real to be rehearsed. Why tell me this? I asked. She gave a sad smile. Because I see the same thing in you. The same fire he tried to dim in me. And I want you to know what you're walking into. Family doesn't always mean fairness, Emily. We drove back in silence. My thoughts were a storm. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and tried to piece it together. Who was telling the truth? Caleb had always been my rock, protective, loyal, sometimes too much. But Ava's version of events, it didn't sound like a lie. The next morning I did something I shouldn't have. I went to my mom's house. She opened the door with a tired smile. Hey honey, haven't seen you in a while. I know, I said. I just needed to talk. She led me inside, poured coffee and waited. It's about Caleb and Ava, I said finally. Mom's face changed, tightened like I'd touched an old wound. Why are you bringing that up? Because I'm working for her now. Her eyes widened. Oh, sweetheart. Don't start, I said quickly. I know what everyone says, but I want the truth. What really happened? Mom sighed and looked down at her cup. They both hurt each other, Emily. Caleb was in over his head back then, trying to grow too fast. He took shortcuts. Ava, she caught him. But she didn't exactly handle it gracefully. So he did use her ideas? Mom hesitated. I think he used their partnership to help himself. But I also think she used the breakup to help herself. They were both ambitious. Both proud. And neither wanted to admit who started the fire. I leaned back, stunned. So everyone's been lying. Not lying, she said softly. Just rewriting the story from where they were standing. I didn't know what to do with that. How do you stay loyal when everyone's version of loyalty looks different? That night I got a call from Ava. Pack your things, she said. You're coming to LA with me next week. What? We're pitching to a new client, biggest one yet. I want you there. It could change everything for both of us. My pulse quickened. This was it, the opportunity she'd promised. The one that could pull me out of my old life for good. But beneath the excitement, a small voice whispered, is this really about business? Or something else entirely? The next morning, as I was leaving my apartment, I saw Caleb leaning against my car. His expression was unreadable. We need to talk, he said. I groaned. Not again. He crossed his arms. You're flying to LA with her? How do you even know that? Because I still have friends in her company, he said coldly. And they told me she's bringing you to pitch against one of my biggest clients. I froze. What are you talking about? She's using you, Emily. That pitch. It's a setup. She's been waiting years to get back at me, and now she's doing it through you. That's not true, I said, but my voice wavered. He stepped closer. I'm your brother. I've protected you your whole life. And now you're being played by the same woman who nearly destroyed mine. I swallowed hard, torn in half. Please, he said quietly. Don't go. I looked at him, feeling my heart split down the middle. If I stayed, I'd lose my dream. If I went, I might lose my family forever. And the worst part? I didn't know which loss would hurt more. He soon left. I went ahead with the initial plan. The airport always smells like metal and adrenaline, that strange mix of possibility and fear. As I sat in the boarding area, clutching my coffee and trying not to check my phone, I told myself I was doing the right thing. I wasn't running away from my brother. I was running toward something, toward my own life. Still, Caleb's words echoed in my head. She's using you. I wanted to silence them, but they clung to me like static. When I boarded the plane, Ava was already in her seat, first class, of course. She waved me over, all warmth and composure. There you are, she said, motioning for me to sit beside her. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just nerves, I lied. She smiled knowingly. You'll get used to it. Big opportunities come with big anxiety. It's a good sign. I forced a laugh. If you say so. As the plane ascended, she opened her laptop and started running through slides for the pitch. I tried to focus, but the back of my mind was racing. I wanted to ask her about what Caleb had said about the client, about revenge, but I didn't know how to start. So I waited. When we landed in LA, everything moved fast, too fast. The hotel, the meetings, the dinners. Ava was in her element, commanding attention, charming rooms full of executives like she'd been born for it. And me? I was her shadow. The one taking notes, fetching coffee, perfecting slides, the invisible engine behind her presentation. On the third night, we sat on the balcony of her suite overlooking the city. The air was warm, the skyline glowing like a promise. You did great today, she said, sipping wine. They loved your talking points. Thanks, I murmured. She studied me. Something's off. What is it? I hesitated. Ava, I need to ask you something. She leaned back, amused. Ask. Is this client connected to Caleb? Her face didn't flinch, but something flickered in her eyes. Why? She asked calmly. Because he told me you were using me to get back at him. For a moment she said nothing. Then she laughed, low and sharp. He would say that. So it's not true? She set her glass down carefully. No, Emily. It's not that simple. The way she said it made my stomach twist. What does that mean? I asked. It means your brother and I have unfinished business. And yes, this client used to be one of his. But I'm not doing this to hurt him. I'm doing it to prove I didn't need him to succeed. That's not what it looks like. Her eyes hardened. Let me tell you something about optics, Emily. People will always twist a woman's success into a revenge story. They can't imagine we might just want what we deserve. I wanted to believe her, God I did. But I couldn't ignore the way her tone changed when she mentioned Caleb. There was still something raw there. I looked out at the city and whispered, I just don't want to lose my family. She sighed softer this time. Sometimes family isn't who you're born with. It's who shows up when the world turns against you. Her words sat heavy in the air. The next morning we walked into the biggest pitch meeting of my life. The conference room was full of people in designer suits, their faces unreadable. The client, a powerful real estate investor, was sitting at the head of the table. Ava started strong, commanding the room as usual. But halfway through she handed the clicker to me. Emily will take it from here, she said. My heart nearly stopped. Me. Presenting. In front of them. I stood up, palms sweating, and somehow managed to deliver the speech we'd rehearsed. I poured every ounce of myself into it. The late nights, the dreams, the fear. And when it was over, the room was silent for a heartbeat too long. Then the client smiled. Impressive. We'll be in touch. I exhaled. Ava beamed. We did it. That night there was champagne. Celebration. Laughter. And for a few blissful hours I forgot about the rest, about Caleb, about Serena, about the weight I'd been carrying. Until my phone buzzed. A single message from Caleb. You really did it. You pitched to my client. Hope the money's worth it. My stomach dropped. I turned to Ava. You didn't tell me it was his client. She froze mid-laugh. Emily. No, I snapped, standing up. You said it used to be his client. You didn't say it was still his. Her jaw tightened. It's business. You didn't do anything wrong. Yes, I did, I said, my voice shaking. I betrayed my brother. Your brother betrayed me first, she said quietly. Don't forget that. I stared at her, the woman who'd given me everything and taken just as much. I thought you were helping me, I whispered. I was, she said softly. And I still am. You're just too emotional to see it. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I packed my bags before dawn and left the hotel without saying goodbye. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to get away from the storm I'd helped create. When I landed back in Chicago, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Caleb, Serena, even Mom. I ignored them all. I went straight home, locked the door, and sat on the floor, shaking. I wanted to believe I'd done the right thing, chasing opportunity, building my own life. But somewhere between ambition and survival, I'd crossed the line I couldn't see until it was too late. And now both sides hated me for it. That night, I finally answered Caleb's call. Don't hang up, he said. I won't, I whispered. He exhaled hard. You really hurt me, Emily. You choosed her over me. Maybe it's good we don't contact each other from this moment. When he hung up, I sat staring at the city lights outside my window. All I'd ever wanted was a way out, a life that was mine. But I hadn't realized how much freedom could cost. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Ava wasn't the type to let someone walk away quietly. I didn't realize how much silence could hurt until I stopped hearing from my brother. For a week, Caleb's name didn't flash across my phone. No, you doing okay? Texts. No jokes about how the city was turning me into one of those people who drink $8 coffee and still complain about Mondays. Just nothing. Serena, however, was relentless. Her texts came in waves, guilt-drenched 1 minute, venom-laced the next. You don't see what she's doing, Emily. She's playing you like she played him. You're our family. Act like it. Every message made my chest tighten a little more. Because somewhere between her rage and Ava's calm, I was suffocating. Work at Ava's office was the only thing that still felt steady. The atmosphere buzzed with creativity. The kind that made me forget to eat lunch or check my phone. But beneath the surface, I could feel the change. Ava had grown colder, calculating. She still smiled, but her eyes had the glint of someone with unfinished business. It started small, a whisper here, a rumor there. Ava's firm suddenly landed a contract shockingly similar to one Caleb had been pitching for months. Then, a week later, an article dropped on a business blog titled, "Did Sterling and Company steal their best ideas?" It didn't name names, but it didn't have to. The timelines lined up too perfectly. When I read it, my stomach turned. Ava hadn't said a word to me about it, but I could feel her fingerprints all over the leak. That night, as we packed up from the office, I finally said it out loud. Ava, I started carefully, you didn't plant that story, did you? She looked up from her laptop, eyes unreadable. Does it matter? It matters to me. Ava exhaled slowly. Emily, I lost years of my life watching your brother sell my work as his own. I'm not out for revenge. I'm out for balance. Balance. I repeated, my voice breaking slightly. That's not balance. That's war. Ava leaned forward, her tone lowering. Sometimes war is the only way people like him understand consequences. The next morning, Serena showed up at my apartment. Not a call, not a text, just a loud, angry knock and the sound of her heels clacking against my apartment hallway floor. Emily, what the hell are you doing? She demanded, her eyes wild. Caleb's firm is losing clients. That article, you know it came from her. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my mouth. You don't know that. Of course I do. Caleb said he recognized parts of an old draft, one she stole before she left him. My heart sank. You mean the draft she helped him write? Serena's lips curled. Oh please. Don't tell me you're drinking her Kool-Aid now too. I didn't answer. Because the truth was I didn't know anymore whose story to believe, and it terrified me. Serena stepped closer. You have to make a choice. It's either her or this family. I looked her in the eye, told her to get out of my apartment with her nonsense ultimatum. Later that week, Ava called me into her office. She was calm, too calm. I need you to know something before you hear it from anyone else, she said, sliding her phone across the desk. Caleb sent me a cease and desist this morning. I blinked. What? She nodded. Apparently, he believes you gave me access to his files. My chest went cold. What? I would never, Ava. I didn't even work for him once. I know. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw something fragile in her expression. He's not coming after me, Emily. He's coming after you. That night, my inbox filled with messages from Caleb. You shouldn't have chosen her over me. This is what happens when you forget who your family is. Fix it or I will. By the time I reached the last one, I was shaking. Days blurred together after that, phone calls, threats, sleepless nights. My career, my family, everything I'd built was suddenly on fire. Ava's retaliation was growing bolder, leaked emails, public jabs, and carefully timed posts that left Caleb's reputation bleeding. She never admitted it, but I knew. And every part of me was torn between admiration and horror. Then came the board meeting. My name was suddenly on the agenda, Emily Sterling. Conflict of interest. I sat across from people who had once called me brilliant, who now looked at me like a liability. Ava defended me. Fiercely. She earned her place here, she told them. Don't punish her for her last name. But when the meeting ended and I followed her into the hallway, I couldn't hold it in anymore. You're not helping me, I said, voice trembling. You're burning everything around me to prove a point. Ava turned sharply. I'm protecting what's mine. And what about what's mine? I whispered. She stopped then, looking almost sorry. Almost. That night Serena called again. Her voice was quieter this time, almost pleading. Emily, Caleb's losing everything. Just talk to her. Make her stop. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the window lights flickering across the city skyline. She won't stop, I said softly. Not until he tells the truth. Serena sighed, exhausted. He did tell the truth. You just don't want to believe it. I almost laughed bitterly. No, Serena. He told his truth. When I hung up, I realized that I'd already made my choice. Maybe not with words, but with silence. I wasn't choosing Ava. And I wasn't choosing Caleb. I was choosing me. When it finally happened, it didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like a slow leak, air hissing out of a tire until you realize you're already stranded. It started with an email. Friday afternoon. The office was quiet. Half the team gone early for the weekend. I was sorting through campaign drafts when Ava's assistant, Mara, knocked on my door. There's something you need to see, she whispered, glancing around like the walls might be listening. She handed me a thin manila folder. Ava said to give this to you. She didn't want to, but she thought you should know. Inside were printed emails, old, grainy copies from a joint project dated years before Ava left Caleb's firm. The sender name made my stomach clench. Caleb Sterling. The subject line. Prototype revisions, remove Ava's signature. My hands went cold. The emails showed Caleb sending Ava's early concepts, the designs that launched his company's entire product line, to a new investor, asking her name be removed to avoid complications. I flipped through the pages, heart pounding. His words were calm, casual, businesslike, like betrayal was just another item on his to-do list. When I reached the last page, there was one more email, a personal one. From Caleb to Ava. You're brilliant, but you're not ready for the spotlight. Let me handle it. You'll thank me one day. I sat there staring at those words, feeling something deep in me crack. He'd lied. All this time he'd lied not just to me but to everyone. I didn't plan to confront him that night. But my hands were shaking too much to drive straight home, and somehow I ended up outside Caleb and Serena's townhouse, rain streaking across the windshield. He answered the door in a loose t-shirt, surprised to see me. Emily, he said slowly. What are you doing here? I held up the folder. You want to tell me what this is? He frowned, then reached for it, but I pulled it back. I read them, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. Every word. He hesitated. Where did you get those? Doesn't matter. Are they real? He exhaled sharply. Emily, are they real? He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting away. That was years ago. I was protecting the firm. No, I cut in, my voice breaking. You were protecting yourself. You took her work, Caleb. You used her. He slammed the door halfway shut, lowering his voice. Keep your voice down. Why? So Serena doesn't hear? So the neighbors don't find out their perfect sterling boy is a fraud. Watch it, he snapped, but his eyes were panicked now, not angry. You don't understand. She was unstable. She was in love with you, I said. And you punished her for it. He froze. The silence that followed was heavy. So heavy it felt like the house itself might collapse under it. I took a step back, rain dripping from my coat onto the floor. You ruined her, Caleb. And now you're ruining me. He swallowed, voice low. I did what I had to do. No, I said quietly. You did what you wanted to do. And then I walked away. By morning it was everywhere. Ava had released the full story. Emails, prototypes, investor memos. She didn't mention my name, but everyone knew I was his sister. The media called it the Sterling scandal. A clean, glossy headline for something that ripped through our family like a bomb. Serena called nonstop, her voice breaking between anger and grief. Do you have any idea what you've done? You gave her ammunition. I didn't give her anything, I said. He did. Then a pause. Long and sharp. You think you're better than us now, huh? Because you work for her. I didn't answer. There wasn't anything left to say. By Monday, Caleb had stepped down from the firm. Publicly, it was to focus on personal matters. Privately, everyone knew what that meant. Ava didn't celebrate. When I walked into her office the next day, she was staring out the window, phone buzzing endlessly beside her. I didn't want it to go this far, she said softly. But he wasn't going to stop lying. I dropped the folder on her desk. You could have told me. She turned, eyes tired. Would you have believed me then? I didn't have an answer. Because she was right. We stood there in silence, the air heavy with all the things neither of us could undo. Finally, she said, You don't owe me loyalty, Emily. But I won't apologize for the truth. I nodded. I don't need you to. When I left her office, I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. That night, I went for a walk through the city. The streets were still wet, neon lights shimmering on the pavement like spilled paint. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. Not happy, not triumphant, just free. Ava had told the truth. Caleb had lost everything. Serena would probably never forgive me. But somehow in all the noise I'd finally found my voice. Maybe this was what growing up really looked like, realizing that the people who raised you could be wrong, and the people you were taught to hate could sometimes be right. And maybe, just maybe, learning to live with that truth was the start of peace. It's strange how quiet the city feels once the chaos dies down. For weeks, every corner I turned seemed to echo with whispers. Sterling's sister, the whistleblower, the betrayal. Caleb and Serena moved out of the city a month after everything broke. I never saw them pack, never got a goodbye. Just a text one morning that said, We're starting over somewhere new. Take care of yourself, Emily. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loving. It was hollow, like an apology that ran out of words halfway through. And honestly, I didn't blame them. For a while, I thought maybe I'd be the one to chase them down, to try and fix what was left. But how do you repair something that was built on lies in the first place? So I stayed. Ava's company exploded after the scandal. She got offers, interviews, new clients who called her a pioneer. The world finally saw her the way she deserved to be seen. But she changed too. The fight had burned something out of her. That hunger she carried now had scars. One afternoon, she called me into her office, coffee in hand, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. You can leave if you want, she said. I'll give you a glowing recommendation anywhere you go. I don't want you to feel trapped here because of what we went through. I stared at her for a long time before answering. I'm not leaving, I said. Not yet. She smiled then, just barely. Good. Because I was hoping you'd stay. A few weeks later, my mother called. We hadn't spoken much since everything unraveled. She didn't know what to say. And I didn't know how to forgive her for believing Caleb first. Your brother misses you, she said quietly. He's not the same. I'm not the same either, I said. She hesitated. He was wrong, Emily. But he's still family. I looked out my window at the skyline. All those glass towers reflecting one another. Each one standing tall because it learned how to carry light and shadow together. Maybe one day, I said. But not today. And for once, she didn't argue. By spring, things started to breathe again. The firm had launched 2 major campaigns under my management. My name was finally on the front page of something good. One night, Ava and I stayed late reviewing pitches. When the office finally went quiet, she turned to me and asked, "Do you regret it?" I knew what she meant. "No," I said. "I regret believing him for so long. But not the truth." She nodded slowly, then smiled that small, tired smile again. "You remind me of who I used to be." I smiled back. "Then maybe that means you did something right." For the first time we laughed, not as boss and employee, not as 2 people bound by betrayal, but as survivors of the same storm. Months passed. The scandal faded, replaced by newer ones. Caleb reached out once, an email short and careful. "I'm sorry, Emily. I thought I was protecting everyone. Turns out I was only protecting my ego. I hope you're happy." "I really do." I didn't reply right away. I printed it, folded it, and tucked it into my journal. Sometimes forgiveness isn't an event. It's a slow, quiet choice you make every morning until it stops hurting. On a late summer night, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights flicker like 1,000 tiny hearts beating together. Below me, life kept moving, cars, laughter, music from a rooftop bar. I was part of it again, not hiding from it. I thought about everything that brought me here, the lies, the love, the courage it took to walk away. For so long I tried to keep everyone happy, my brother, his wife, my mother, even Ava. Now I finally understood. Peace doesn't come from keeping people together. It comes from standing still in your truth and letting everything false fall away. My phone buzzed. A message from Ava. "Big presentation tomorrow. Ready to change the world again?" I smiled, typing back. "Always." As I set the phone down, I whispered into the night. Not a prayer, not a promise, just a truth. I'm not the villain.